A 14-year-old homeless boy walked into a hospital room soaking wet, starving, and invisible to everyone inside. Doctors had just called time of death on an 8-month-old baby. The billionaire father was on his knees, distraught. The machines were being switched off. And then this boy, who had nothing, saw something every trained professional in that room had already missed. What happened next has no medical explanation. And what happened after that will break you open. If this opening already hit you different, smash that like button right now and subscribe. This story is one you will not want to stop halfway through. His name was Eli. 14 years old, thin as a shadow, cracked lips, hands rough from cold concrete and hunger. He hadn't eaten since the day before. Most nights he slept behind the hospital dumpsters because the thick walls cut the wind. Sometimes nurses left bread near the door. Sometimes they chased him off. That was his whole world. The rain that day fell heavy and mean. Eli stood near the hospital entrance, soaking through, shaking so hard his teeth rattled. He wasn't begging, he never did. He just watched the automatic doors slide open and close, people flowing in and out, warm and dry and holding things he had never owned. Umbrellas, coffee cups, phone chargers, children's hands inside in a room lit too bright for grief. A different kind of silence had settled. A baby lay on a hospital bed. Noah Hargreave, 8 months old. Tubes everywhere. Machines breathing for him because he could no longer breathe for himself. His chest moved in the smallest increments, less like living, more like the last echo of it. The lead doctor studied the monitor for a long time. Then he slowly peeled off his gloves. The sound of that, the snap of latex, was the loudest thing in the room. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Time of death." Crying filled the space immediately. The kind that has no words, just sound and loss. Noah's father, Daniel Hargreave, a billionaire whose name appeared on buildings, on foundations, on the lips of presidents, fell to his knees on the hospital floor. His suit cost more than most people made in a month. It meant absolutely nothing. He had already buried his wife months before. She died after childbirth, a complication no amount of money could have stopped. And now the last piece of her, the only piece that remained, was being taken from him too. He pressed his face to the floor. He could not breathe. A nurse reached toward the machines to begin switching them off. That was when Eli stepped through the door. No one noticed him at first. He was background noise. A wet, shivering shape in the doorway that didn't belong. But Eli noticed something. Something no one else in that room was still watching for, because they had already decided the story was over. The baby's mouth twitched. It was the smallest movement in the world. Almost nothing. But Eli had lived in the almost nothing for years. He knew how to see it. His heart slammed hard. "He's not gone," Eli said. The room went absolutely still. "Then get him out of here." Someone snapped, sharp and cold. The nurse's hand moved closer to the machine. "No," Eli shouted. Before anyone could react, Eli ran forward. He pushed past the nurse. He grabbed Noah gently, instinctively, and pulled the tubes free. Alarms screamed. Doctors shouted. Security came running from the hall. Eli didn't think about any of it. He ran straight to the sink. He held Noah the way his mother used to hold his little sister before she died. That memory lived in his hands. He tilted the baby forward just slightly and let a soft stream of water run over his mouth. Not fast, not rough, just enough, like a whisper. "In the name of Jesus," Eli breathed, his voice shaking apart. "Breathe." Seconds passed. The alarms kept screaming. Hands grabbed at Eli's arms. Someone was yelling his name, except no one there even knew it. Then a cough, water spilled from Noah's lips, a pause, another cough, and then thin, weak, wavering, a cry. The room stopped. The baby they had declared dead was crying. Chaos erupted. Doctors rushed forward, nurses called out readings, security still held Eli's arms, but Noah was crying. That sound, that impossible sound, made everyone freeze mid-motion. "Wait," the lead doctor said. His voice was careful, strange. He looked at the monitor, oxygen levels rising, heartbeat present. Weak, irregular, but present and real. They moved Noah back to the bed, replaced the tubes, restarted the machines. But this time Noah resisted them. His tiny fingers curled. His chest rose on its own. One of the nurses said nothing. She just covered her mouth. Eli stood in the corner, soaking wet, arms wrapped around himself, water still dripping from his clothes to the floor in slow drops. He looked at no one. He wasn't sure if he was in trouble. He was used to being in trouble. Daniel Hargreave walked toward him, up close. Eli looked even younger, dirt under his fingernails, old, faint scars on his forearms, the specific hollowness in someone's eyes that comes not from one bad day but from years of them. "You saved my son," Daniel said. His voice broke on the last word. Eli looked down. "I just didn't want him to die," he whispered. The doctors pulled Daniel aside and spoke in low, careful voices. What the boy did had no medical basis. There was no clinical explanation for what they were seeing, and yet Noah had responded. Brain scans showed activity where there had been none, not healed but waking, as if something had called him back. The doctors had no words for it. After a while they stopped looking for them. Eli sat alone in a chair in the hallway. His stomach growled loud enough that a passing nurse heard it. She came back with food, a full tray. He ate slowly, the way you eat when you've learned not to trust that there will be more. Night. Daniel came back. "Where is your family?" he asked gently. Eli didn't look up. "My mom died, my sister too." He paused. "I ran after that." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You can't go back outside tonight. Please stay." The first time in years, Eli slept in a clean bed. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's truly following this story, because it's about to go even deeper. News of Noah's recovery spread fast. Doctors used words like unexplained and unprecedented. Churches called it a miracle. Journalists wanted names. Online, debates erupted: science against faith, chance against something larger. Daniel shielded Eli from all of it. "You don't owe the world your pain," he told him. Every day, Eli sat beside Noah's hospital bed. He talked to him, sang soft songs his mother used to hum over his sister's crib, told him about the night sky, what it looked like when you had nowhere to sleep, and the stars were the only ceiling you had. He described constellations by the shapes he made up for them. Shapes that had nothing to do with mythology. Noah responded. A finger curl, an eye slowly opening, a soft, formless sound. Doctors watched in silence. One nurse whispered to another, "He responds more to the boy than to any of us." One night, Noah's oxygen dropped again. Alarms, rushing feet. Eli stood frozen at the door. Then Noah's tiny hand closed around Eli's finger, just that. A grip no wider than a breath. The numbers on the monitor climbed back up. The attending doctor stared at the screen for a long moment. "He stabilizes when the boy is near," she said. No one argued. Months passed. Noah learned to swallow on his own, then to sit, then to laugh, a full, real laugh that rang through the halls and made everyone who heard it stop what they were doing. Doctors filled their reports with cautious language. Daniel had a simpler word for it: grace. Eli no longer slept behind dumpsters. He went to school. He had clean clothes, food every day. A door with a lock that was his. It took time. He struggled with reading at first. Trust came even harder. He flinched at raised voices, kept the light on all night, hid food under his bed for months, not out of greed but because hunger has a long memory. Daniel never said a word about it. He understood that the body holds on to survival long after survival is over. When Eli turned 17, it found him at a crosswalk on an ordinary afternoon. Rain fell suddenly, heavy and cold. The smell of wet concrete hit him and pulled him backward, back to dumpsters, back to shaking, back to hunger so deep it felt like something eating you from the inside. His breath seized, his vision blurred at the edges. He couldn't move. Noah, 6 years old, walking beside him, noticed first. "Eli," he said softly. He reached up and took his hand. Eli dropped to his knees on the sidewalk. And Noah, this child who had once been the one needing saving, knelt with him, pressed his small forehead against Eli's, and whispered with all the certainty in the world the same word Eli had once whispered over him. "Breathe," Noah said. "Please breathe." And Eli did. That night, Eli told Daniel everything he had never said out loud. The guilt of surviving when his mother and sister hadn't. The fear always underneath everything that this would be taken away, that he would be sent back. The weight of being called a miracle when he still felt, on the inside, like someone broken beyond repair. Daniel listened without interrupting. When Eli finished, Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You didn't save Noah because you were special. You saved him because you knew what it meant to be invisible. You acted when everyone else had already decided the story was over." Eli never forgot those words. He was adopted that same year, not as a transaction, not as gratitude, but because Daniel had looked at this boy who had survived things that would have ended most people and recognized that love, real love, doesn't wait for someone to be whole before it shows up. Years passed. Eli became a pediatric nurse. No headlines, no cameras, night shifts, frightened parents, children who couldn't sleep. He sat with them. He held hands during the moments when machines were louder than hope. And sometimes, when a doctor turned away too quickly, already composing the time of death in their mind, Eli stayed. He watched, he looked for the twitch, the almost nothing, and sometimes a child breathed again. When Noah grew up, he asked Eli once, "Do you think I'd still be here if you hadn't walked into that room?" Eli smiled, slow and quiet, the way people smile when an answer lives too deep for a quick word. "I think," he said finally, "that love walked in with me." And somewhere quietly, without headlines or cameras, the world healed just a little more. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose dumpster moment you might be standing outside of. Subscribe for more stories like this. And leave a comment. What's the one line from this story that hit you the hardest? I read every single one.